Welcome to my first review with a built-in drinking game! Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and my ongoing quest to review every single movie Robin Williams has ever done. You know, there was a time early on in this series when I thought, am I going to reach a point where I regret this decision? Am I going to reach a point where I regret watching every single film this man has done? And I think that Patch Adams tells me that that answer is yes. I'm obviously talking about Patch Adams this week. Largely considered one of the worst movies of 1998, one of the worst movies of the 90s in general, and one of, if not the worst film of Robin Williams' career. But we'll see about that. Patch Adams is directed by Tom Shadyac, who also directed Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, and Bruce Almighty. Also had the same screenwriter, so what the fuck went wrong here? This movie stars Robin Williams as Hunter Patch Adams, who was a real person whose life was bastardized by this movie, and is also a man who wants to be a doctor, but instead of using traditional medicine, he just wants to make people laugh and help people and do medicine for free, which is wonderful and notable, but God, this movie makes such schlock and schmaltz out of it. This movie also stars Monica Potter, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Daniel London, and has a brief appearance by Michael Jeter, who was my favorite crazy person in The Fisher King, also being a crazy person in this. The drinking game, I mentioned it, I came up with the idea while reviewing Mrs. Doubtfire, and I've mentioned it in the past, but every time that this movie makes me retch, like when I'm like, ugh, or like, ugh, just any kind of retch when I'm talking about the movie, take a shot, take a drink, whatever floats your boat. I will be adding like ding noises and counters for idiot proofing, or just, you know, if you just are having a hard time keeping track, because I'm sure it's going to have it quite a bit. Patch Adams is about Patch Adams, and he goes to medical school and basically just annoys the fuck out of everyone because he wants to do things differently. And I get wanting to do things differently, but this is a world where every single person other than Patch is a fucking asshole. Like, nobody would ever be this way. It follows him on his journey through medical school, his struggle with the dean who doesn't like him because he's the big bad establishment guy. This is a Robin Williams formula movie to a T, and this is the worst example of it. This is him being a weird guy who is funny and makes noises, and the big bad establishment hates him and they want to kick him out, and he loses his job and something horrible happens to him, and then at the very end he gives a big fucking speech in front of the court, and there's also a love interest that's shoehorned in there for, oh, this one makes me so mad. I guess we'll get to it, but before we get into that, let's just go ahead and cover some of the background and history of this piece of shit. This is the second film produced by Blue Wolf Productions and Robin's wife at the time, Marcia. Like I said, they only produced 3 films. Mrs. Doubtfire was the first, this was the second. The next is next week's film, so bad track record there. The real Patch Adams hates this movie. He thinks it's so horrible. He said it was supposed to donate money to his hospital, and it did not. In the movie, Patch starts building this hospital called the Gesundheit Hospital, which is a free hospital where people can come and they stay at this house basically, and it's sort of like patients and doctors are peers, so everybody helps everybody else in one way or another. And the real Patch said that this movie was supposed to donate money to his hospital, and they did not. He did clarify eventually after Robin's death that he didn't hate Robin for the performance, and he was thankful for the attention that the film got the hospital, regardless of whether or not they actually gave him money. There were also real Make-A-Wish kids on set, which I don't know how I feel about. Robin worked closely with Make-A-Wish during this production and had a lot of these children be in this film, which, if they were cool with being in the film, I guess that's cool. I just don't know how I feel about putting a dying child on camera if their only wish was just to meet Robin Williams. He would also do a lot of improvisation to make the cast and crew laugh, if that wasn't already fucking obvious. And when they were shooting on location at the University of North Carolina, he would do stand-up for some of the classes in session. This movie also has a lot of big, glaring inaccuracies about Patch Adams' life. The movie opens with Robin Williams admitting himself to a mental hospital because he's suicidal, and then while he's there, he gets his calling. But he's 47. He's 47, and he goes to medical school, and everybody's like, you're so old, why are you here? The real Patch Adams graduated high school when he was 18, graduated college when he was 22, and went to medical school when he was 26, like a normal person. So they literally just changed all that so Robin could play this part. Monica Potter's character in this film is named Corinne Fisher, and she's a big bitch the whole time. She's like, I'm just here to study and I'm not gonna smile or laugh, but until you make me smile or laugh, and then I'm gonna fall in love with you. The fact that it's fucking inexcusable, and it's gonna be spoilers. This is what takes this movie from bad and just schmaltzy and emotionally manipulative to literally inexcusable. So this woman Does not exist. There was never a woman named Corinne Fisher in Patch Adams' life. He did have a friend that was murdered, who was a man. So no romance, they completely created this romantic relationship and this sexual abuse backstory just to emotionally manipulate us more. And golly, this movie is a fucking masterclass in emotional manipulation. The score is the only reason that it gets anywhere, because some of these scenes are just so schmaltzy and yucky and gross, and the score makes them gross. But without the score, they would have no effectiveness. Like, there's so many of these moments that if the piano wasn't swelling, you would just be like, what is this fucking nonsense? What is going on? That's the start of my review, I guess. I'm gonna try to follow the plot as closely as possible. Literally starts with him going, the dictionary definition of home is blah. Ugh, you've lost me already. This psych ward is run more like a prison than a psych ward, and the guards and the doctors are all dickheads. Because they make the character of Patch so crazy, he does things that put other people in danger and eventually get someone killed, but you have to make everybody else a fucking dick so that he is the center of the story. He starts making jokes in a group therapy session about a catatonic patient whose hand is stuck up all the time, and it's going over very well. All the inmates are cackling, everybody's having a great time, and the doctors get mad and they leave the room. God, I hope this was at least fun for him to shoot. It looks like it was a good time, but it is not a good time to watch. It's endless scenes of some old white man in a coat being like, you're unorthodox and we don't like that, so you need to get out of here, and him being like, why do I need to get out of here? I'm a man with a passion and a heartbeat and I just want people to laugh. And it's like, yes, you can want people to laugh. You could go to the hospital and be a clown if you wanted to. That would be perfectly acceptable. But you are sneaking into a hospital when you are not supposed to be there. You are posing as a doctor. You are stealing medical supplies from legitimate institutions. You are practicing medicine without a license. It gets to a point where it's frustrating because it becomes so unrealistic that any of this would actually be continuing in a real place of medicine. It's all just stuff that no one would ever say. Like the Dean something or other is the big, angry, big, bad man in this. And he starts off his first class by being like, literally saying, we're gonna beat the humanity out of you and make doctors out of you. Which, like, who would say that? Who would say that? It's just all stuff like that. Grabs this random unsuspecting kid who's probably at least 20 years his junior, and it's like, you're gonna be my new best friend, we're gonna run around town, and we're gonna do some crazy shit. And we're gonna touch people's lives. He's swinging from a lamppost and this old woman freaks out, and then he's like, wait for it, and she turns around and is like, oh, you. If a man swung from a lamppost into my face, I would be disturbed for the rest of the day. I would not turn around and be like, and then they sneak into a meat packers convention for no fucking reason other than Robin getting to make meat jokes and dick jokes for 5-10 straight minutes. It has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. And they literally just start by impersonating doctors. They sneak in their first year medical students, and the big rule is that nobody interacts with patients until their third year. Fine. They put on their meatpacking coats and they sneak in, and this other doctor is being a dick, like in front of the patient is just like, yeah, this patient's stupid dumb fat bitch with diabetes and they're gonna cut her legs off. And then Robin's like, what's her name? Like, do you really, this movie does not understand how doctors talk. Like, bedside manner is very much a thing. Like, nobody would be, the scenes of him playing with children and making children laugh are very nice. The scenes of him helping old people fulfill their dreams are very nice. It's just so, because like the music every time is just like, da da da, and it's like, it's so manipulative, and it tells you, the score tells you at every step of the movie how you should feel. You should not be creeped out by this man sneaking into a hospital ward at night. You should be like, oh, how joyful. And there was a time in my life when I think I saw this for the first time when I was in high school, and I thought that it was very sweet and funny and good. Looked into it more, and I found out all the inaccuracies about the real Patch Adams' life and everything that it changed, and then I revisited it as an adult and was like, this is a piece of smulch and schlock and shit, because all it does is try to play to your lowest common denominator and use the most basic things that it can to make you feel some manufactured shit. This movie's manufactured in every sense of the word. Every plot beat, everything that happens, everything that somebody says. You know, you've got the like guy, and then you've got the guy that's like, well, I'm on your side, but you need to lay low, and it just like every beat of it. There's no surprises. The way that he gets the woman, Corinne, to love him is by just never fucking leaving her alone. And there's 2 or 3 times that she's very clearly like, please leave me alone. Leave the bitch alone. Ah! One of the biggest wretches of all time is He sneaks into this old man's room and they have him shoot a bunch of balloon animals, and then they ask this woman what her dream is. And she says, she's laying in the bed, she's like, all my life I've just wanted to swim in a pool full of noodles. It's like this, oh my god, they use old people and sick kids to play to the height of the emotional manipulation. There's also this big scene where for some fucking reason, even though the dean knows that this guy cannot be serious for 2 seconds, he appoints him to be the head of the planning committee for this convention of gynecologists that they're hosting at the college. First of all, not one woman gynecologist on that campus, all old white men in brown coats. What the fuck? I don't even think there's that many male gynecologists, but you've probably seen, he puts like a big paper mache like legs and stirrups as the opening to the thing. And everybody's like, oh. And I just find it hard to believe that not a single person would have laughed. Not a single person. Like, this movie relies on the idea that every single doctor is an old white stuffy fuck who has never laughed at any joke in his life. And that is simply just not the case. People laugh at jokes, I promise you. Like, not every person is like this, and it's so unrealistic in the portrayal of that. There's this patient that, like, he's dying, and the family leaves the room, and he dies with only patch in the room, which is like, what the fuck? The hospital tells him that the patients are taking less medication because he's making them so happy. It's just like, ah! I just can't. I can't. It really gets hard to stick with him once it veers into the territory of being so illegal. Like, once he opens the house and is actively practicing medicine completely without a license, actively stealing medical supplies from a hospital, committing crimes. So many moments that are just like, ugh. They're like painting the hospital and they all start being like, ee and pushing each other in pain, and of course there's some happy pop song playing, and it's so ugh. The way that the woman dies, it's obviously supposed to indicate, you know, there is a line that patient-doctor relationships obviously should not cross, and you have to learn that by her going completely alone to this mentally disturbed man's house in the middle of the night. And it's just so hard to believe because up until that point, she's a very smart and collected bitch. So you would really expect me to think that she would go there by herself and not tell anyone where she was going and get herself murdered by this psychopath. It's just so, it's so yuck. And that part of it is just so, it's so disrespectful and manipulative to have this character created from a real person who lost their life and totally just change all the details so that you can make us a little bit sadder and he can read a love poem at her funeral and cry on her coffin. And is it sad? Yeah, it's sad. If this were a movie, if this were just a movie, if this was not based on anything, it would still be a bad movie, but it would at least be excusable because it told a story entirely from fiction and it did something effective to your emotions. But the fact that you have to change the truth to... He also tries to throw himself off the cliff and then he sees a butterfly and he thinks it's her, and of course there's just a whole big swell of this. Oh my god. There's at least 4 or 5 separate scenes where he's in an office or in a courtroom or something in front of a bunch of old white men and they're like, you suck and we don't like you and we don't like anything you do. However, you're fine and we're gonna let you stay because there's literally, oh my god, there's so many scenes. There's literally the same scene with the dean happens at least twice. The exact same, different lines, scene goes the exact same way. This movie is almost 2 hours, and if you cut a lot of this, it would be like half an hour. The big climax, I guess, is that the dean doesn't want him to graduate, so he decides to appeal to the State Board of Medicine. So the court speech in Mrs. Doubtfire is a little bit wretched, but it only goes on for like a minute. This one goes on for, I think, 15, and he's just talking and talking. He's like, every person is either a patient or a doctor, and just, it goes on for so long, and it's a whole room full of people in drab brown suits while he's there in his Hawaiian shirt, so you know he's different. And he's just saying all these just schmaltzy fucking things in his speech. It's so schmaltzy and yucky. And then right at the second when the court is like, oh, we're gonna review your case, you're gonna be right back, his friend bursts in with all of the kids and all of their families, and they all put on red noses. Oh, it's so nasty. And the moment where they finally let that woman swim in a pool full of noodles is so ugh. God, the courtroom scene is just wretch. From start to finish, it is wretched. Especially the courtroom scene. If you didn't have the swelling piano music and all you saw was a bunch of people putting on red noses, you would be like, what the fuck? And then they all give him a standing ovation, and it's just like, why are you rewarding this? His only goal is to help people. Like, if he wants to be a doctor, then take it serious and be a doctor. But if you want to be a clown, then be a clown. And if you, I don't know, there's got to be a way to balance the two, and this movie just makes it seem like everybody else is in the wrong, when that is really not the case. If you examine it, Patch is very incorrect about a lot of things, and there is very many chances for them to find a middle ground in this, and they just do not. God, I'm taking this off. Overall thoughts, this movie is schmaltz and schlock. It is prime emotional manipulation, and it's easy to give into it. Like, I found myself feeling sad or happy occasionally, and then I was like, yeah! No! You have to pay attention, and you have to be aware, and you deserve better entertainment than this. You deserve better. I'm telling you that you deserve better. Patch Adams was very much a financial success. It grossed $202 million on a $90 million budget, and it was #1 in its opening weekend. It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Score, which great job to whoever made that score, because the movie would be nothing without the score. It also got Golden Globe nominations for Best Motion Picture Comedy and Best Actor Robin Williams, which just shows you how, I guess, shit the Golden Globes are, because this movie was one of the most brutal critical responses of his career to date, and probably ever. It's regarded as one of Robin's worst attempts to balance his humor and his emotion in the movies, which, like, very much agree. Variety said it was shamelessly sappy and emotionally manipulative, gives him carte blanche to careen between extremes of silliness and sentimentality, which is very true. Roger Ebert said it was shameless, and the real Patch Adams came up to Roger Ebert at an event and said he agreed with every word of his review of that loathsome film about him. So, everybody agrees. It's a piece of shit. And even the people that I have, like, spoken to about this film that are like, oh, I liked it, I'm like, but really, take a step back and think about it. It's a piece of shit. It's a piece of schmaltzy, yucky shit. And the fact that it is so emotionally manipulative just makes it sick and worse. Like, I don't even know. I feel bad for the guy. He seems like a cool guy and he knows his shit, and this movie portrays him like a fucking goof-ass clown who won't take it serious for a second. Ugh. If for some reason you are interested in watching Patch Adams, I hope it's for a hate watch. But if you have a Cinemax subscription, you can watch it through Prime or Hulu that way. You can also get a free trial and cancel it like I did. Don't give them a dime of your money. But for some reason, if you want to give Patch Adams a dime of your money, you can rent it in all the usual places. Next week, it does not get any fucking better. I'm looking at Blue Wolf Productions' third and final film, the Robin Williams Holocaust movie that we all needed so badly, otherwise known as Jacob the Liar. Bottoms up. Hope you're still with me. Hope you enjoyed the review. Hope you're still taking some shots or whatever. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel for more angry reviews like this, I can only presume. Until next time, get this red nose the fuck out of here.